Hi, my name is Brock. I'm a Jew. I'm an ordinary Jew just like so many other ordinary American Jews. I was not raised particularly religious, although I do like to go to synagogue now. Um, I've served in the military, but so do an awful lot of other Jews. Um, I'm, I've worked with Jews in the government and security. Nothing special whatsoever about me. I was raised in a nice suburb outside Chicago, just like so many other Jews. There is very little to distinguish me from the people I grew up with, or from most of you. But I wanted to make this video and talk a little bit about some things on my mind after the events in Texas recently, and after this morning turning on the news and seeing that there was an anti-Semitic attack in an area of Chicago with a lot of Orthodox community. I'm really distressed at the things that I've seen, and I don't understand why the Jewish response seems to have been one of total nothingness, of weakness, and silence in most cases. It doesn't make sense to me. And I saw an article by this Rabbi Bogard in Forward magazine, and he talked about how he was angry because he believes the Second Amendment is a tax on him. And I saw this and I got so angry. I can't express how angry I was. It hurt me deeply. So I sat for a little bit and I wanted to think about some things, and then I wanted to talk about what I had thought about. Having been raised as this very ordinary Jew, one of the things we didn't hear about from other kids was Jewish resistance. We didn't hear about it from many other people, from many other sources. But my parents taught me about this. Everyone knows about the Maccabees. Some are familiar with hopefully more than some, with the resistance in the Warsaw Ghetto. Few talk about Masada, even though there's pictures of it all over the place if you go to synagogue or a Jewish community center. But to most, it's a big rock they climbed on a trip to Israel, like some obligatory stop to have to make. Having lived in Skokie, I knew that the community there had at one point been willing to stand up with their fists and confront hatred when it was coming. But you just didn't hear about much things where Jews would stand up and actually fight. And it always seemed strange to me. But my parents were very literate, and my dad had served for a time in the IDF, and my parents talked to me a lot about anti-Semitism and what it means to be Jewish, which means that there's always going to be people that hate us for every stupid reason and for no reason. But my parents, they taught me about Jews who didn't meet their fate as ashes. They didn't hide in an attic out of fear. They taught me about those who took up arms and they exacted vengeance on their pursuers. They taught me about stories of survival against all odds, stories of Jews refusing to die on their knees or quietly. They taught me that in the fall of 1944, prisoners at Auschwitz, forced to run the death machinery, revolted and shoved at least one of the guards into an oven before blowing up the entire crematorium. And yet, when I visit the Holocaust Museum in Skokie, I see little to nothing about Jewish resistance. In Sunday school curriculum of my children, there's little to nothing of Jewish resistance. This is very odd because we're all simultaneously taught of the force of arms through which Israel repeatedly triumphed, and how the IDF is this Jewish sword that guards the homeland. It is as if there's this biblical story and then centuries of victimhood followed by the Holocaust, followed by Jewish military might springing forth from nowhere. It occurred to me that Jewish might did not spring forth from nothing. It has always been there. It has not deserted us after biblical times. Without a doubt, we Jews have faced untold suffering at the hands of a world that hates us, for every reason and for no reason. But through it all, we have persevered. Something within our people refuses to die. It refuses to be crushed and discarded, although individuals and entire communities have been exterminated time and time again. How? Because Jews are not cowards. We are not pacifists, although we abhor suffering and violence. We have throughout our history fought with our own hands, alone and without allies. My father told me of a beloved family member who, back in the old country, saw an evil person forcing an elderly man to chop wood naked in the Russian winter. I asked my dad what happened, and he said the relative rushed in and grabbed the axe and fought the tormentor. He lived to tell the tale, minus a number of his fingers. My dad taught me the day after Pearl Harbor, most of the able-bodied men in the family rushed the recruiting office. Like so many other Jews, they could not sit back and do nothing while darkness swept over the world. So the truth is, we are a people who love peace and we pray for peace. We are also a people that fight when the need arises, and we do so with righteous ferocity. It is part of us. We are survivors. How odd, then, that in America today, the notion of an armed Jew guarding a synagogue is not met just with disbelief and sometimes horror, but is the very picture of insanity itself. It is like the third rail of most Reformed synagogues, and is a topic likely to cause chaos if pursued with any seriousness. On the other hand, the idea of a large Reformed temple in the city without hired armed guards or armed police out front during services is unspeakable. To suggest not to employ armed security, almost always non-Jewish, is like inviting the apocalypse. If you suggest otherwise, you get looked at like you should see a good Jewish doctor because something in your head is broken. You do not know there are anti-Semites out there that mean us harm, don't you? I know this because when you go from attending such large urban synagogues to a smaller congregation in far suburbs or even rural locations, there's mostly no armed security. You relate this to members of the former, and they give you this look like you are tempting fate and whistling past the graveyard. A conversation goes like, "Who guards the building?" "We do." "How?" We watch the door, and we have great relations with the police, who are almost always welcome, and sometimes they get paid for special events. Also, the ADL works with us, so we know if we are being targeted. Anything else? Grant money to harden the windows." After that, there is always silence, and the conversation ends. Think about this. Exercising our own legal right to be armed and protect our community with ourselves is bad because of guns. Guns are bad. Having no armed security outside, though, is unthinkable because good guys with guns are needed to protect Jews without guns. So the guns are good, but only if held by non-Jews. In his recent opinion piece in Forward, Rabbi Bogard relates how his temple spends an unthinkable amount of money on security. The numbers he lists off are almost obscene. He tells us how his temple is aggressively minded in doing social justice. His animus, though, lies in his belief that the Second Amendment itself is putting him and his congregants in danger and forcing them to protect themselves at tremendous cost rather than spend all this money on various social justice initiatives. He does not blame the hate mongers. He blames me. I and the many Jews and non-Jews of this country that are legal, law-abiding citizens and desire nothing more than exercise a constitutional right by where we look to ourselves for self-defense. That is where he most hatefully and shamefully places the blame. Self-defense is a universal human right, and in this country it is protected and an enumerated right. But we are the problem. We are depriving him of his money by supporting that right. I don't want to dwell on Rabbi Bogart. His words are horribly hurtful and derisive and so condescending, I don't think I will ever forget them. I serve my country, and I serve my community to the greatest extent of my energy, and I was a victim once of random violent crime from a lunatic on the street, but I don't want to dwell on him. It serves no purpose aside from illustrating a kind of condescending elitism alive in some American Jews today, where we happily place non-Jews in danger so we can go about our calendar cycle. We do so saying it's fine because we pay them. How much is each of those lives worth? I remember that from some movie. Based on what I see and read, those who we pay to guard us are pretty much disposable. No one talks about the value of their lives. We sit back and we do our thing without any more effort than applying for grant money and writing checks, and we readily expect others to die trying to save us if the worst happens. We refuse to take any initiative for our own physical security. We castigate those who do. We call them names. We call them stupid. We call them every sort of terrible thing, and we denigrate, and we laugh, and we look down our noses at them, and we write another check and tell them to take a bullet for us. What does this say about a rather large segment of American Jews? I'm going to leave you, the reader, to answer that because it is well worth dwelling on. But you need to think about it. I already know what I believe. All the security in the world does nothing when you don't know the threat is in your midst. None of it helps when you open the door with a heart filled with kindness and a bad person takes advantage of it. This is no dig at the temple in Texas. In fact, the more I read, the more impressed I am with them and with the rabbi, even though personally I do not like him or his views. But he does sound like a man of both incredible kindness and courage, and yes, that indomitable Jewish will to survive. When he sensed a senseless, terrible, meaningless death was closing in, he sprang into action. He could have easily died along with all the hostages. Without action, it certainly all would have perished. He became a leader. He took a chance. It was an act of defiance, humble though he may think it. What I advocate is for Jews to awaken that sense of courage that dwells still deep within us. We must protect ourselves, not by throwing money at building walls and hiring an army of IDF-trained soldiers and special security agents, and not by listening to the ADL tell us everything will be fine because they, the government, will give us a warning. None of those things helped in Texas. They were taken by surprise. Two powerful nations dedicated to tracking and interdicting such people utterly failed. We protect ourselves by protecting ourselves. It isn't rocket science. We go and we get the training and we equip ourselves and we maintain proficiency and we practice and we guard. In Texas, if one trained and equipped person had been present, I have zero doubt that over the course of all those hours, there would not have been an opportunity to shoot the bad guy. After all, there was opportunity to throw a chair. It's even possible that, as often happens, the mere appearance of a gun by an armed citizen leads to the bad guy surrendering or running away. If they had been armed down in Texas, it's at least a 50-50 chance the bad guy might even still be alive. Some of you undoubtedly see such a thing as keeping with our highest strivings as Jews, and while I have no pity for the attacker, I can understand how some may feel. Shedding blood is terrible. Shedding blood in a temple, any blood, that is beyond horrific. Therefore, if an attacker is presented with the possibility of a defender using lethal force, they at least have some kind of chance of surrender, and the defender has employed what restraint they could. Our sages tell us that we should, in fact, avoid killing if it can be accomplished in any other way, and I agree with that. You see the paradox, though? Unarmed, blood will be spilled. The attacker will kill the innocent, and inevitably someone will kill the attacker. But if the innocent can defend themselves, there's at least the possibility of preventing all or some of the innocent from being killed or wounded, and also the possibility of capturing the pursuer, the rodef. Some of you might be familiar with that, without killing him. I know that those who hate the Second Amendment will read this and tell you I'm crazy. They'll tell you all guns are bad, which is funny to say coming from those guarded by armed security. They'll tell you you can't shoot, which makes no sense because shooting is a learned skill that we are not born with, but a great many people are very, very good at. They will tell you it might cause chaos, which is also strange because I can't think of anything more chaotic than being attacked while at prayer. They'll tell you it will only make the attacker more angry. Come on. Can you be more angry than being on a suicidal mission to kill those at prayer merely because they are Jews? They will tell you Jews don't do such things, but you know that's not true. We are Jews. We are survivors. We fight Cossacks with axes when they torture people. We throw Nazis into their ovens and blow ourselves up to kill more. We fight to the death in the ghettos. We took a stand at Masada. Our brothers and sisters are the sword defending Israel. We joined up by the hundreds of thousands and stormed the beaches and hunted our tormentors down where they lived and destroyed them. We fight in the sky, at sea, under the sea, in secret, alone, in armies or on the street. We fight on 1,000,000 battlefields over 5,000 years, and everyone in the world keeps trying to kill us, and we are still here. So if someone tells you that Jews don't fight, it's a lie. In fact, it's a basic tenet of anti-Semitism. If someone tells you this, you think of those 5,000 years and the fact that you are here today because a very large number of Jews fought with ferocity to make sure that you would be born. Think of that, and then maybe throw in some choice words about where they can stick such opinions. If you are a Jew telling another Jew this, shame on you. If you're a politician telling a Jew that then you should be forced to resign, and that is me being merely polite. If a political party tells you this, well, you'd figure out that one for yourself. You have a right to exist. You have a right to defend yourself. You are capable of defending yourself, although I pray with all my heart the need will never arise. But you can't do so against an attacker when you have nothing to fight back with. The rabbi in Texas got lucky. The attacker didn't just kill all of them live on social media. My guess is the next time the attackers will not be so obliging. And yes, unfortunately, it will happen again. Are you willing to base your survival on the goodwill or not of those coming to kill us because we are Jews? We can fight back. We have the right to fight back. If we don't fight back, we'll invite even more aggression because evil people care nothing for the laws. They see weakness and they feel an urge to exact cruelty. Jews, arm yourself. If you yourself are unwilling to defend the innocent inside your own houses of worship, then I don't know who or what you are. I do know that it is immoral for us to sit by helplessly while we pay others to take bullets for us. You are Jews. No one likes to fight, and certainly no one wants to shoot anyone, but we are Jews. They will come for us no matter what walls we put up, no matter who our allies are, no matter the amount of loving kindness we display. You can't love or educate the hate out of some people. You just can't. We are Jews. Stand up right now and say it. I am a Jew. I have a right to exist. I will not sit idly by while my neighbor's blood is spilt. Remember, that's from the Torah. I will not sit idly by while my neighbor's blood is spilt. I will not sit by while my family is targeted for death. I will not allow myself to be killed easily and for nothing after my ancestors toiled for 5,000 years to see me born. I am a Jew, and I will fight if you force me. I am a Jew.